see, if you really want to develop yourself as a leader, particularly as a woman, you need to invest in your development.
Quickly, organizations, yes, benefits from strong mentorship and sponsorship culture if you are able to increase the engagements, and then you grow individuals within the line.
Leadership Summit 2025. Theme: Ethical Leadership for Sustainable Economic Growth. And venue: British Council, Accra, Ghana.
Date: 19th of September 2025.
Register now. Contact +233 55 959 4433. See you there.
Hello. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending on which side of the globe you are watching us from. Once again, this is Global Leadership Group, where we have a group of leaders that we train. Our main aim is to build capacity of leaders, corporates, religious, anywhere, because we believe that if the leaders have strong capacities, they can lead their team to arrive at expected goals, or even achieve more than the goals given to them. So for us at Global Leadership Group, we always look for creme de la creme resource persons to come and be our guest speakers. And for this evening, our topic is transformational leadership, driving meaningful change. And we have two top-notch guest speakers. I'm going to introduce them in no particular order. The first one is Dr. Mark Owusu-Boadu. Dr. Mark Owusu-Boadu is a seasoned academic, corporate governance expert, and peace advocate, currently serving as a senior lecturer at the University of Professional Studies Accra, EPSA, and a chair of the Eastern Regional Peace Council in Ghana. He holds a PhD in corporate governance from Plymouth University, UK, along with degrees from the University of Ghana and University of Cape Coast. His expertise spans corporate governance, business ethics, qualitative research, and leadership, and he has published widely in these fields. Dr. Mark serves as a director on a number of corporate boards and an MD of Maclan Corporate Governance Consult and a member of Institute of Directors, Ghana. Dr. Boadu, thank you so much for making time to be with us this evening.
You're welcome.
I think your voice is low.
Okay. You're welcome.
Visit for us, yes.
I don't know whether it's improved. Is it better?
Hello? No.
No.
Still
Is it
low.
better?
No. Your voice is low. I think you kindly unmute. Kindly unmute. If you could kindly unmute.
Yes.
No.
I guess I have.
No, we can't hear anything. Hello. Hello. Okay. I can hear you now. Can you hear me too?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, sir. Okay. So our next resource person is Professor Winfred Ofoe Lakote. Hello, Prof. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I'm introducing him, Professor Winfred Ofue Lakote. Is a distinguished Ghanaian academic and institutional leader specializing in information studies and computer science, currently serving as a rector of Valley View University's Kumasi campus and recently appointed Pro Vice Chancellor. He brings over 7 years of experience in higher education administration. He earns he earned his BSc in computer science from Valley View University, followed by an MBA and PhD in information studies from the University of Ghana, where he sorry, where his research focused on e-government portals in developing countries. His his scholarly work includes studies on mobile payments, ATM adoption, e-government portals, and revenue modeling in Ghana. Under his leadership, the Kumasi campus has prioritized infrastructure improvements, IT enhancements, and value-based education to foster academic excellence and integrity. Prof. Lakote is also active in professional associations, contributing to research, capacity building, and the strategic integration of technology in education. Once again, Prof. Lakote, you are very welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy.
Okay, sure. All right. So without wasting much time, we'll zoom straight into our reason for meeting this evening. So our topic for discussion this evening is transformational leadership, driving meaningful change. So I'll start from Dr. Bredu. So Doc, please, in your view, what distinguishes a transformational leader from other leadership styles, especially in times of uncertainty or change?
All right. Thank you, Happy. Let me begin by reflecting on what transformational leadership is.
Yes.
And then we say someone is a transformational leader when the individual is able to inspire, motivate, and elevate followers to achieve more than what is typically expected of them. What it means is that for one to be a transformational leader, that individual is able to make more or less leaders out of who he has as followers. So you don't just lead the people. You lead the people, challenge the people or the followers in a manner that with time they themselves also begin to be taking the initiatives to become leaders tomorrow. Now, what the ways by which we can say that transformational leadership is different from the other styles of leadership is the fact that if we pick, for instance, in terms of uh, visionary inspiration, you could realize that transformational leaders are able to clearly define what their visions are, clearly define what their vision is, and to the extent that followers are able to buy into it. Followers are able to share that vision with the leader. Unlike transactional leadership, where one begins to focus on more of the complying with what's already existing. And so we say that trying to maintain the status quo and not necessarily taking the risk of bringing about a change. But for transformational leaders, the focus is ending up with a change that makes the system better than it was. And during crisis or uncertainty situations, you realize that whatever exists is taken to be as a result of not complying with one or two things. for the transactional leader. But the transformational leader sees beyond that. He is able to be able to get a future-oriented vision out of that crisis situation. And he gathers the followers. He is able to share the vision with the followers. He drives the followers along with it. And he is able to come out with a system which is probably more innovative, better than it was before the crisis. If you compare it with autocratic leaders will just want to enforce the existing controls and make sure that systems maintains its status. And laissez-faire leaders will also want to sometimes pull out of the situation in times of crisis. But transformation leaders will always stand firm and make the best out of the crisis, make the best out of the existing situation. So many a times they stand out on whatever they find themselves in terms of the idea of inspiring their followers to get it done, sharing their vision, coming out so clear for it to be understood, and then also trying to prepare and challenge the followers to be along with them. They always take the initiative to lead and get their followers along with it. Probably for now, maybe I might leave it here for to also come.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Prof. Infed, so what can you kindly add your opinion or yours, submission on this same view that transformational leaders, what distinguishes them from other leadership styles, especially in times of uncertainty or change?
Thank you very much, Happy. I don't know if you can hear me very well.
I can hear you very well.
Yeah, okay. So, Bob nice meeting you once again. I think Bob has said all. You would see that transformational leaders would mostly want to get their followers to rise above the status quo. They do that by they will try to provide what we call a compelling vision, like Prof has said already. Then they will also try to model their way. By model their way, I mean they have clearly what is in mind, how the journey is going to be and all that. They have it in mind clearly. And then what they will do is to empower people to act. So they have a compelling vision, then they'll model the way, and then they would now empower the people to act. You look at, for instance, he took autocratic, so I probably would take transactional leader. They are looking at performance metrics, they are looking at compliance, but transformational leaders mostly would prioritize values. They want to see, they don't expect everybody to do the thing the same way, but they have a framework within which the whole environment is operating. They will prioritize relationships. They would also prioritize adaptive change. In this instance, they are looking at change that the whole institution can look up to and all that. Now, they inspire, like we said, they inspire and then they motivate. So they empower others also, and then they lead by example. Now, in times of difficulty or in times of uncertainty, transformational leaders anchors, what we call, they become like the pillars. They communicate transparently. In most instances, they remain calm because you want to make sure that the people are looking at you and all that. So transformational leaders remain calm, cool and collected. And then what they will do is that they rally the people uh, around purpose rather than the processes. And so during this period, in times of uncertainty, most transformational leaders would like to provide stability and direction. They want to provide a clear sense of purpose, a clear sense of direction. And then what they do is to help reduce uncertainty and anxiety. So they don't want to create, they want to make sure that their followers are calm. They can follow through. They do not lose their thoughts during the processes, and it takes a lot of energy to do that. Um, During this period, too, mostly they like to build trust and credibility. They want to be transparent during this period. They want to be consistent with their words, and they want to be honest because transformational leaders value the people they work with, and closely related to valuing people is being honest and being transparent with them. And then during this period, my last one is that what they do is that they foster reliance, resilience, and adaptability. So you would see that they help others to develop their skills during this period, and then they build their confidence. A typical example of maybe looking at a transformational leader is during the COVID-19 season. During the pandemic, these are the transformational leaders are those leaders who probably reimagined the operations around empathy. They looked at the digital innovation, and then they look at the people first strategies. So a transformational leader will say, hey, you guys stay in the house, but we have provided this particular technology or tool that can help you do your work. And so whilst they are blending values, they are blending empathy, they are blending innovation, and then they are placing people first and then empowering them. In such instances, you tend to transform the minds of the people, you believe in their skills, and then they grow together. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, still with you, Prof. Lakoti, how do transformational leaders build trust and buy-in when leading significant organizational or cultural shifts?
That's an interesting question. So, in most instances, transformational leaders start by listening. Listen, listen, listen. They don't see themselves as all knowing. These are leaders because they value in people and their skills, and also have that transparency. What they do is that they listen a lot. Now, whilst listening, they build trust. So you see, they listen a lot, and then they also get to understand their stakeholders or their employees' fears, their hopes, and their dreams. Now, whilst they do this, they develop some kind of a personal relationship with them, and then they build trust. So, in most instances, also, you get transformational leaders in why change is needed. You see, they don't just, for instance, a transformational leader will not just create change without telling his or her people why change is needed. And that is part of the trust process. For instance, someone I worked with some years back, he wanted to provide a cultural transformation within a university, and if you've been to the university setting, you see that everybody is a man of their own. Everybody is an expert in an area and a leader in their area. So everybody has their opinion. Different people have their opinions. But for him to make that change, the first thing he did was to start by talking to the staff and the students. He created focus groups. Focus groups mean that you put them in different groups, and he started talking to them. And during that period, his aim was to find the pain points. His aim was to find the points where people felt pain, where people were aggrieved, where people didn't understand, people didn't like, and all that. And be amazed. Now within the focus group, he worked together with them to come up with solutions. Now, who wouldn't like to be part of this kind of change when we have all provided a shared vision and provided the solutions together? So he made people feel heard, he made people feel valued, and then he got them involved. He made them feel involved. And this helped them, it stopped the resistance by the group, and then they started taking ownership. And so what I probably would say is that they build trust by listening first. They build trust by understanding the fears and hopes and dreams of their people. They build trust by making their people feel heard, by valuing them, by getting them involved. They do regular and open communication. And then they don't just talk, but actions follow. And I think these are ways by which transformational leaders actually build trust. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Owusu Bredu, please, I'd like to find out if you could kindly share a personal story where you or a leader you admire successfully led a team through a major transformation. So, like, what made it successful?
Well, thank you. I think it's interesting. Prof shared one shortly, which I strongly associate with, and it sounds so great. But probably let me give one that had to be with someone that I worked with as well, who was a CEO of a rural bank, and then this individual assumed the position of the CEO. And most of the time, what comes to mind is leadership is about position. People think that when you get to the position, then you give targets, you give instructions, you give the orders, and this gentleman, went around it differently. Immediately, he called the staff and then told them, "I'm not going to give you target. What I'm rather going to uh, do is to listen to you, like Prof. rightly said, to listen to you. And at the end, we all agree how we want the rural bank to look like and to be like." They made a rural bank that is, in fact, at that time, it was really having poor staff morale, rising rate of non-performing loans, and all these negative attributes that goes with a rural bank that's not working well. And then this young man came in, and then his first decision was, okay, I'm having a staff retreat, and spent time, took his staff out. People thought he was joking. Form groups, and then put before them, we want to have a clear idea what we want the bank to be, and I want everyone to share, to express, to contribute. And then at the end, he was able to summarize all these viewpoints that the individuals have made. And of course, he has a clear idea what he wants to do, but want to know how that sits so well with the people, the team he's got. Now he has listened to the team. Now he has clearly defined the vision. The people were the ones that contributed to the idea of how they want the rural bank to be. As we speak now, last year he won the bank won the #1 rural bank in Eastern Region. I wouldn't want to mention the name, but otherwise he will know I'm talking about him. But he didn't do this just because he has the expertise, experiences, basically because he is a transformational leader. He is a leader that is able to blend the skill, the knowledge is God, with that mindset, that relationship, that connects people with what he also believes in. Share the idea with the people. And you see, one thing about leadership is that once the followers begin to have a clear idea of what you believe in and what you are leading them with, it makes them begin to respect and trust you. Then Prof made a very important statement. You model the transparency, you model the ethical, values, you represent what you say they should. So you walk the talk. That makes them build trust with you over time. Then again, they see results. And this gentleman was reporting to his staff every quarter of the year on performance indicators and the key performance indicators. And as at the time they became the regional one, they had 40% increase in customer deposit, and they've been able to drop staff turnover from about 24% to 7%. And loan repayment was doing so well, and the profit margin had doubled. And this is performance. And this is a change. And this is the change that followers will believe that, if they begin associating with such a leader, they will get the results that they need. And then will always align with such. And so for me, this reinforces the fact that followers will resist the change, but it's not the change they are resisting, but they're resisting they changing. So when you're able to let them begin trusting you and buy into what the values, what your vision is, what the goals are, and then they understand what they stand to gain, that fear, that that resistance begins to wave up, and then you begin getting people that begins to believe in themselves, believe in the leader they are following, and then the resistance to whatever change that the leader aspires to get on board come true. So that's what I probably will want to add for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Usubedu. I really agree with what both of you are saying, because as a leader, transformational leader, if you let your team members, you get close to them, and then they get a buy-in to their ideas, it becomes a bit more easier because they understand, and then they also own that vision that you have, or that you have. They also own it. So all efforts will be put into it, and then it will be easier to arrive at the expected goals that you had. Thank you very, very much. So Prof. Winfred, please, what are some common mistakes leaders make when trying to drive change? And please, how can these be avoided?
Okay, thank you very much, Happy. But to before I go to this, I want to say something that we've been talking about, and it's not a simple process. It's a tedious one, and it's a process that has to be intentional. Imagine you're a leader, and your colleagues or your subordinates are challenging you. They talk back, and then it's like sometimes you argue, of course, constructive arguments, just to make sure that you can get the processes going through. And so one thing that is closely tied to a transformational leader is humility. The fact that you are a leader, the transformational leaders understand the fact that leadership is temporal. It's not a permanent position that you hold for yourself forever. And so once it happens that way, they want to make sure that you move in that direction. And so humility is very key. Now let me just mention some of the common pitfalls, and then probably one of the things is a top-down mandates without engagement. One of the common mistakes of leaders are people mostly would resist what they don't help create. And so sometimes leaders will just be at the top, they make the decision, and then they want everybody to implement. It doesn't work like that, especially when you're in an intellectual society. Everybody has an opinion, and everybody would require that there's a need for people to move to follow. And so one of the common pitfalls is that. Another one is poor communication. Communication. Clear communication is very important. And I also say building standard protocols or standard operating protocols. Everybody must know what they can do or what they have to do within a particular time. And that is very critical for the survival of leaders. So what we would say, silence mostly would breed suspicion. And then inconsistent information or messages also would erode trust. The next one is ignoring organizational culture. Systems don't change if underlying values don't. So every organization would have built a culture over the years, and they respect it, they cherish it. How do you make changes? One of the things we say is a transformational leader empowers the people. Obviously, so that's one of the pitfalls. We don't just ignore organizational culture. And underestimating emotional impact. Change often triggers fear, it triggers grief, and sometimes loss. But most leaders will just ignore it. Look, the fact that they want to drive change, that is all. They are not bothered about who gets affected, what goes into it, what happens to anybody. They just go into it. And so these are some common pitfalls I can mention. Now, how do we avoid some of these things? The first one, co-create vision with diverse voices. Don't just decide on the vision of the institution or the organization by yourself. Co-create it. Let people participate in the vision creation. Once it becomes a shared vision, they would fully participate in it. There's also communicate clearly. We need to communicate clearly, often, and with empathy. So that is very critical. And then we also need to align structure, strategy, and culture. Don't lose out on the organizational culture. Even if you want to change it, there's a process that people must buy into it. And then provide emotional and psychological support. That is very important through coaching, mentoring, creating safe spaces. Let the people feel that they are safe within the institution, they are happy, and they can grow. And I think these are some of the ways that you can avoid some of these common mistakes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll go on a short break, after which we'll continue. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Leadership Summit 2025. Theme: Ethical Leadership for Sustainable Economic Growth. And venue: British Council, Accra, Ghana.
Date: 19th of September 2025.
Register now. Contact +233 55 959 4433. See you there.
Welcome back. Welcome back from our break. I
Thank
want
you.
to read I want to read a few of our Comments from our viewers. In God we trust said, "Happy, good job. Today too, you brought great and learned panel, ready to learn more." Thank you. In God we trust said, "Thank you, Prof. Kwedu." I think that was when he was giving one of his submissions. And Data Link site said, "Great submission, Prof. Kwedu." In God we trust said, "Transformational leaders are transparent." That is very true. Well spoken, Prof. Lakote. Lisa Inside said, "Great example, Prof. Guido. In God we trust." Wow, that was great leadership skills displayed by the bank leader. Lisa Inside said, "Well said, Prof. Winfred. Transformational leaders lead by example." In God we trust said, "Transformational leaders know his position, knows his position is temporal." Well spoken, Prof. Lakote. Andrew Anoche said, "Very interesting. And my takeaway is that transformational leaders must be deliberate and purposeful." Thank you. Thank you so much. So we are on. Dr. Owusu Bedu, please, how can emerging leaders develop transformational leadership qualities, especially when they don't yet hold formal authority? How can they develop it?
That's quite interesting, though. You see, one thing about leadership is that it must start with oneself. You can't lead others well if you haven't mastered yourself. And if you listen to Prof earlier, she kept talking about empathy. He kept talking about humility. He kept talking about a relationship. It's not always about you, but it's about the others you work with, which we call the followers. And so for me, I'll say that you need to start with self-leadership. Cultivate that emotional intelligence, that which makes you recognize what your emotions are and what others' emotions are and how you'll be able to relate with. Because most of the times, and again, I could pick on what an example Prof gave. You have colleagues and a team you're working with, and sometimes you could see that they're raising issues, and you just have to listen. And you need to listen to know what is that side that they are trying to sell you probably don't have an idea of. You need to have that behavior. And I will say here that leadership has to do with the mindset, behavior, and of course, the relationships. If you are able to know when to be humble, when to stand your authority, when to know when to direct, and these are behaviors. And this is what makes you as a leader know when to react and when to respond. And sometimes we react to situations that at the end we later realize that if we had reflected on it better, probably we wouldn't have done it that way. And it's all about behavior. And so let us begin knowing more of ourselves. So then, wherever we find ourselves, we can begin to understand the others that we work with. Always clarify your values and live them. Here we're talking about leading by example. And don't be too quick to throw out ideas suggested by others or the team members. Again, I will say that you must always be able to cast and communicate your vision. You must learn to know. You don't need to become a leader first before you begin looking at how to carve a vision. You must be able to learn to know how to define a vision, how to see through, and how to see beyond what others see. This will help you become a leader, not just by position, but a transformational leader for that matter. You speak about the why behind your team's effort to find out what can be done. You offer compelling, ideas that, make your team members excited, challenge the team members to move on. And people don't follow titles, and that's one important thing. They follow vision. So you can have all the titles on earth. The fact that you're giving out others, you're giving out instructions, and is being followed, does not necessarily make you a leader. You need to have a clear vision out for people to understand and share that vision and be able to walk the walk with you. Otherwise, you'll be having all the titles moving along, and one day you turn and there's no one following you. Okay, so we need to learn to lead and learn to lead through casting clear visions and communicate our visions clearly. Another thing that I probably want to add is practice how to influence others. I don't mean control others. You practice how to inspire, how to encourage others to get along. You may not have the authority per se, but you could have the influence. And that is the basis of transformational leaders. We're talking about transformational leaders being able to build followers. They are able to inspire, and it's all about influencing. So then you can build a good relationship with your followers. And when there are small wins, you celebrate them, you share with them, you give them, tap on the back, and then move along. And Prof had already said this, so I wouldn't want to model the culture you want to see happen. And basically about the organizational culture or the corporate culture, that becomes the tool or the device to get leadership carried along with structure. I will want to also add practicing to have the courage. Sometimes it's not easy. You are the leader, and as a transformational leader, you are also a mentor of a team that you are leading. You need to practice to have courage. Otherwise, in times of crisis, you might run away before your followers even decide or make the decision to join you. And so you need to be sure, what can we do better? How can we turn things around? This is not the idea we started with, but we can let it happen. And what can we do different from what we've been doing? And please, these things really help, move your followers along. Then they begin to feel like, oh, it can be done. I think it can be done. Sometimes it is difficult. I tell you, sometimes you get into the situations that you yourself as a leader, you feel like, can this really happen? And then when you're not careful and the followers get to know that you're really giving up and breaking down, that begins to be the end. And we need to have that conviction as well. And learn, for me, last one, but probably the one that I like most, we always have to learn from others, particularly from our mentors, if you have one, and our role models. It does not come out just one day and you become a transformational leader. But people have done it before, and so you can do it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Read biographies, leaders' profiles, ask questions when you get the opportunity to meet them, and sometimes reflect on what makes them effective and what makes them that great. And you can be making a headway. Thank you very much.
Doc, thank you so much. Thank you. So just a few more comments from our viewers. Princess Inshira said, "This show is interesting." Yes, of course. It's because you are learning a lot, right? And in God we trust says, "You can't lead others if you've not mastered yourself." This is deep, Prof. Guido. In God we trust, we said, "Inspiring others is the key as a leader." Well said, Prof. Yes, and I also agree with my guest speakers that in order to be a leader, even if you don't have the experience yet, you can start practicing by learning how to communicate vision clearly, practice how to inspire others or influence others, celebrate small, small wins, if that be. You ask yourself, what can we do differently from what we are doing currently? Read about, you know, great men, great ladies, biographies. Of course, you don't need to reinvent any wheel, but by doing this, you find out that you will also come out to be a great transformational leader. So, Prof. Wilfred, please, what role does emotional intelligence play in transformational leadership, and how do you cultivate it in your team or organization?
Um, Thank you. Prof. Boydu says a lot. I love his submissions.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So probably one bit I would like to add to what he said is, you know, if you're a leader and you want to develop transformational leaders, start from where you are. Everybody's a leader in their own small way. So start from where you are. Leadership is not tied to title. It's tied to trust. It's tied to initiative. It's tied to credibility. And so start from where you are. Emotional intelligence, of course, these days everybody talks about it. Emotional intelligence, and that is, it plays a central role. Period. It plays a central role in transformational leadership. When we talk about central role, it means that it's pivotal. Okay, so it has a pivotic role in transformational leadership. It helps leaders to read the emotional climate. For instance, if you're a leader and you start saying something or you start acting in a particular way, your emotional intelligence bit is supposed to help you read the climate, the emotional climate of the people. Then you know that, hey, I need to pause here. I need to redirect my steps. I need to know how to handle this. So it helps leaders to really read the emotional climate. It helps leaders to understand and manage their own emotions. Like Prof. Gwedu said, you need to have that self leadership. And so, in order for you to have that self leadership, you also have to understand and manage your own emotions. You need to be self aware, you need to self regulate yourself, and you need to be self motivated. You can ask yourself, as a leader, you find yourself in a very high position and you are supposed to be there as a direction and motivation for the people. How do you even motivate yourself? So emotional intelligence helps you to get it. It helps you to respond with empathy. As a transformational leader, I mentioned, and we've been talking about empathy. So emotional intelligence will help you to value the people, know their fears, their hopes, their dreams. And so it helps you when they act in a particular way to respond with empathy. What we will call redeem and restore. It helps you to redeem and restore people, especially your followers. It helps you to also leaders to resolve conflicts constructively. You don't take sides right from the beginning as a leader. Everybody within the conflict zone is a potential work or is a worker who has some values to contribute to the institution. So you want to make sure that you don't take sides right from the beginning. So emotional intelligence will help you to resolve these kinds of conflicts. It helps you as a leader to also manage to build strong relationships. It helps the leader to also inspire through connection and not correction. Um, there's a difference. Sometimes um, we inspire people by we don't want to, we want to correct people always, um, so that you know that, oh, you're always doing the wrong thing, or you're always wrong. When you do that, you stamp on the on the charisma, probably for lack of a better word, of your people. You break them down, you make them timid, but you inspire people through connecting with their views. Emotional intelligence helps you to connect with their views, and then you inspire them. It helps you to connect with them on different levels. And when people understand you, when your workers feel that you love them, you have that empathy for them, look, they'll do anything for you. I've seen some security men in my institution who tell you, look, all we need is for you to show concern to our needs, and we'll kill ourselves for you to make sure that you are secured. And that is all they need. And so once you show that empathy as a leader, you'd realize that through the emotional intelligence, you realize that the people value what you have done for them, and they will go all out. And then that also improves productivity. Now, ultimate emotional intelligence, um, there must be we must motivate, or we must model the emotional intelligence behaviors. So leaders must demonstrate the self-awareness, they must demonstrate empathy, and then they must demonstrate social skills themselves. Like what Wedu said, um, it's self-leadership. And so there must be that modeling of emotional intelligence behaviors. And that is very critical in the institution. You must also conduct self and team assessments. There are several tools that you can use in conducting self and team assessments to be able to understand what your institution is, where your people are, and all that, and how you can handle them. Now, you also need to offer coaching, or what we call the emotional agility workshops. So offer such coaching sessions, create the environment in such a way that people can begin to be aware of their emotional intelligence levels, where they can make changes when the need arises and all that. Then normalize reflection and feedback. Very important. Let people create the system in such a way. The organizational culture should have a system, a system where people can really think, sit, reflect on their actions, and then know whether they did the right thing or not, what they need to improve upon themselves, and so on and so forth. And also that give them feedback. Create a system where there's some good feedback from you, and I think that helps. That, and then also probably the final one, I would say celebrate vulnerability and humanity in leadership. Know that, look, if you're a leader, it doesn't mean that you got everything right. You can make mistakes. Where you make mistakes, apologize. And some people I've heard people say that, look, as a leader, you don't have to apologize. It makes you weak. That is never true. Apologize when you have to your colleagues, because don't forget that within the people, some people may qualify and can fill your position. Apologize to people when you make mistakes. Accept your vulnerability in instances where you can't do it, and then change. It's I don't know if you have heard of this. It says that, dear God, help me to accept the things that I can change, the things that I cannot change. Let me live by them. And that's kind of statement. I've forgotten how it's said in full. But the point is, as a leader, you must know that, look, you are vulnerable. You can make mistakes. Accept it, and accept that you're a human being. And so you need people also, you need that empathy by yourself, and you need to have that awareness so that when you make mistakes, you can acknowledge them and you move on. And I think that's the best thing to do as a leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, that was very, very deep, very deep. Yes. So the next one goes, for the sake of time, the next one goes to Dr. Usubedu. So please, looking ahead, what do you think will be the biggest leadership challenge in driving meaningful change over the next 5 years? And how should leaders prepare?
Wow. That is quite tough, though. I don't know whether there is a one clear response or answer to that. But just before I touch on this, Prof made a very important leaders are human beings, and they also have weaknesses, and so they can also make mistakes. And I like that so much because sometimes we refuse to accept that, and that makes us more like demigods. And if we're not careful, you end up failing with that one. We need to accept the weaknesses when we're unable to. Now, back to looking ahead, probably one of the biggest leadership challenges that in driving meaningful change, like you said, over the past 5 years or in the future, I might probably be tempted to say adaptive change or adaptive challenges, navigating around it in a world that is persistent disruption, where complexity, uncertainty is the order of the day, and where there is the rising or the increasing expectation of stakeholders. We will need to, as leaders, we will need to see how best we can navigate around that. And what I mean by adaptive change is a deep systematic transformation in response to complex challenges that cannot be solved with existing knowledge. And that's why we need to accept it. But of course, because it cannot be solved by existing knowledge, existing structures, that be it, or practices, does not mean that it cannot be solved. We may probably begin thinking about how to adapt it for now, and then think through. Some will say think beyond the box. Probably we'll begin looking at assuming there's no box, and then thinking outside it, and then you begin looking for a way to survive it, because the world in which we find ourselves now keeps changing, and the environment is so turbulent that we cannot be certain of solving future issues with existing knowledge structures and practices. And so that one of the things that we need to be mindful about is that adaptive challenge. It will definitely come. But as long as we continue to adapt, we continue to learn, unlearn, and we rethink our core values and behaviors, relationship, and mindset, we will always be able to overcome. We never knew how we were going to overcome COVID when it came, but we managed to navigate our way around it. The point we're saying is transformational leaders always keep their calm and believe that by adapting to whatever change that may come their way, they are able to learn, and be able to rethink, and using their core values, the behaviors, the relationship, the mindset they have trained, be able to overcome all the time. Why am I saying that these things are quite difficult? And it's because the continuous erosion of trust as a society is one of a growing concern. But you realize that throughout our discussion, we've been talking about the need to build and to have trust. And so if we're not careful and able to manage our followers well, we're going to have a situation where we will be leading with a trust barely not existing, and trust must always be rebuilt daily, weekly, every time, and ensure it aligns with whatever decision, vision we carve must be transparent. And like Prof said, morality, very key. We need to be leaders of integrity so that we can continue enjoying the trust and the team that we are leading. Probably not want to add, maybe Prof may want to add one or two. So I will end it here, but it's one thing that I keep thinking of, and I believe in the future it's something we need to work on.
Yes, yes, Dr. Abedu, thank you so much. It's true. Transformation leaders need to learn, relearn, keep their calm, believe by adapting to any change, sticking to core values, making their team members trust them, and all that. All this will help them to be able to become great leaders or arrive at their goals and expectations. So, Prof. Winfred, what do you have to add to that?
After Widow has said all that, I think probably
Yes.
let me just say that like he said, it can't be a one answer in terms of how we foresee the next 5 years in terms of leadership. But I see a situation where um, we can have there'll be leading, there'll be complexity. Leaders will be leading amid complexity and volatility. What I mean by, look, there's technological disruption. Every day a new technology is coming up. So if you are in an institution and you are using this technology, by the next day or by the next month, the technology has changed. The competitor just grabs it and is taking the lead. And so there's technological disruption. There's generational shift. We've moved from several. Every time they have the names of the years. Now we are in generation what? Is it Gen Z? I'm sure
Yes.
the next years after Gen Z is Gen Alpha. People have proposed. And every generation they come with different styles of life. I can imagine that you can see the kind of, so leaders are going to be faced with managing generational shifts. Because they are moving from one level to the other. Of course, there are climate challenges. There are socio-political fragmentations. Look at what's happening in Iran. We heard that their parliament actually blocked that small channel. I've forgotten the name. The Strait something. And you have so many ships passing there in a day. So you can imagine that there are so many challenges which are multifaceted, and leaders may have to address. There's a lot of complexity. So I would say that leaders must continuously learn. They must embrace continuous learning. Looking at artificial intelligence, ethics, sustainability, digital transformation, leaders must be continuously learning. You can't be a leader, a transformational leader, if you are not learning. That's something that must be. They must also learn to lead intergenerationally, because you see, the people who will be leading in our institutions are people. Some were born in the 80s, some were born in the 60s, some were born in the. So you can imagine that you have people from different generations that you have to lead as a leader. And so we must look at the new values and addition. Transformational leaders are open-minded. They are not stuck, or they are not static to what they know already. So that's something that we must look at. We must cultivate resilience, both personal and organizational. And I think leaders must anchor change in their core values, which is very important. And one of the most things I'll leave us with is that leaders must be humble to learn, relearn, like Prof. Boydu said. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Leaders must be humble to learn and relearn. Thank you. Thank you. In fact, the 1 hour has come just like a twinkle of an eye. What you taught us are so loaded, so loaded, and I can personally I've learned a lot, and our viewers have also learned a lot. You can see that from their comments. Genevieve Pearl Consult says, great. In God we trust says, great to learners. That is true. Apologize when you are wrong as a leader. Thank you, Prof. Lakote. In God we trust says, my takeaway, apologize when you are wrong as a leader. Thank you, Prof. Lakote. Princess Inshra says, I'm learning many things from this topic. Data Link side said, good leadership is built on trust. Well said, Prof. Gertrude Lacote says, way to go, Prof. Princess Inshra says, leaders must be humble. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The first thank you goes to our guest speakers. Thank you so much for, teaching us very deep things that will help us become great leaders to achieve our goals and even beyond. You've shown us how to be humble, how to be open to change, how to get to know social emotional intelligence. We use that one in managing our people and all that. You've taught us so many things. I've listed a whole lot down, and I'm sure that's how what our viewers also have done. Global leadership group. In fact, we always ask for more, like Oliver Twist. So please don't be surprised if I come knocking on your doors again. And our viewers, thank you for making time to listen to our program. I'm sure you've learned a lot. So continue to like and share our program. So until next month, last Sunday in next month, I say thank you and God bless us all. Goodbye.
Leadership Summit
Thank you.
2025. Theme: Ethical Leadership for Sustainable Economic Growth. And venue: British Council, Accra, Ghana.
Date: 19th of September 2025.
Register now. Contact +233 55 959 4433. See you there.